Welcome to my channel Shadows of History. What's a horror story from history that most people don't know about? History doesn't usually go into the gory details. Mercifully, the punishment for regicide, the murder of a king or head of state, has always been severe, since before the Middle Ages. But as the Age of Enlightenment came around the corner, medieval barbarity seemed but a distant memory. Yet when François Damiens attempted to kill Louis XV in 1757, the state went all out in making an example. They went fully medieval on his ass. To paraphrase Pulp Fiction, François Damiens failed to kill King Louis. The thick winter coat the ruler was wearing prevented the blade from penetrating deep into his flesh, and he survived with a fright. Damiens, however, wasn't quite as lucky. Damiens was placed in painfully tight boots, which were then put on fire to compress his legs and feet into a pulp. After this, flesh was torn from Damiens' flesh with red-hot pincers, and he was emasculated. Molten lead was poured into his open wounds. For large horses were then tied to each of his limbs, and made to walk in different directions to rip the limbs off his torso. Damiens was a particularly muscular man, and the limbs wouldn't give, so royal executioner Charles-Henri Sanson cut his tendons, after which the stretched-out arms and legs finally came off. Mr. Damiens' bloodied torso dropped to the floor, but, to the horror and amazement of the crowd, he was still breathing. Throughout the ordeal, the would-be king-killer kept pleading for mercy, from God or the executioner. He just wanted to die. The executioner, however, carried the still screaming torso to the stake and burned him alive, where a combination of severe blood loss, shock and the devouring flames finally silenced Damiens' screams at long last. Charles-Henri Sanson, who executed Damiens so barbarously, would later execute the final French king, Louis XVI, in 1793. By then, death came by guillotine and was handed out swiftly and relatively painlessly. The horrific end of François Damiens was one of the final death throes of medieval capital punishment.